Hello, in this video we're looking at issue 53 of Warhammer Imperium magazine, finishing building our Triarch Stalker for the Necrons, and then using it on the battlefield along with some new Necron Stratagems. Hello, I'm Will, and this is Mike with the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And in this video, we're bringing you issue 53 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine. This magazine came with the second part of the Necron Triarch Stalker, so we can finish building it in this issue. And if you want to see what it can do in our game, you can skip ahead using the timecode in the description or the chapter bars to see the battle report. But if you stick with us for now, we'll look through the issue first. First we look at Vigilus, an Imperial world that found itself in an important strategic location after the opening of the Great Rift, because it was at one end of something called the Nakmund Gauntlet, which is a stable route through the Great Rift warp storm, which meant that it became vitally important and was fought over by many factions. As you can see, were some Genestealer cults, Orcs, and the Eldari also got involved, as well as the Imperium and the Chaos Forces. Even the chapter master of the Ultramarines, Marnius Calgar, was sent there, where he faced off against Abaddon the Despoiler himself. Unfortunately, he was laid low and was thought dead, which damaged the morale of Imperial forces considerably. There's also a bit about something called the Void Claw, which is an ancient technological relic, which Abaddon the Despoiler tried to get hold of. Now we learn about the vehicles of the Adeptus Sororitas, which are based on standard Imperial patterns like the Rhino chassis, which is used for many vehicles like the Space Marines and the Battle Sisters, but covered in their own iconography, so holy symbols and texts and statues. So here, all based upon that chassis, we have the Immolator, which is a transport and infantry fighting vehicle with deadly flamer or melter weaponry. The Exorcist, which is a long-range artillery piece, but also mounts a giant organ which plays holy music as it fires its missile payload. The Castigator, which is a battle tank with several heavy weapons. And the Rhino, which is an armoured personnel carrier. And it also mentions Paragon warsuits, which, when piloted by a sister, greatly enhance their strength and ability to carry heavier equipment, helping them face off against some of the more deadly foes of the galaxy. And we have a short story about the fighting in the Nakmund Gauntlet, where the Space Marines of the Castellans of the Rift chapter are fighting against the forces of Chaos. There's a bit about the chapter there. They were created specifically to guard the Nakmund Gauntlet. And we have more information on the Order of the Bloody Rose. These sisters are fueled with righteous anger and smite the Emperor's foes with all the tools at their disposal. And then we have the painting guide for the Triarch Stalkers. Obviously, we learned how to build it in the previous issue, although we need all the parts from this one to do that. Painting it in the same way as all the Necron models, but just on a larger scale. So starting with a lead belcher base coat, and then applying Runelord Brass and Abaddon Black to much of the skeleton. Although it does mention here not to paint over some of the contact points where we will be assembling it from the sub-assemblies that it recommended doing in the previous issue. Because you can't stick plastic glue onto paint, because it will not stick. So you need to leave some bare plastic in those places. This is all the same colours here, but just on a larger scale, so in some cases it suggests dry brushing on highlights rather than painting them with a brush, because it would take you a very long time otherwise, like the Dawnstone on the black areas, much quicker than edge highlighting all of those individual panels. And there's also a tutorial on glazing here, where you thin a paint down very, very thin and then apply it in lots of thin layers. So what we're doing here is glazing the limbs with Abaddon Black over lead belcher. Building that up with a lot of layers, you can get this very nice dark silver effect, and then highlighting with Stormhost Silver to pick out the edges. You get a really nice battered metal look. And there it is in all its glory. We also have a fold-out insert in this issue about the fracture of Bealtan, the Eldari craft world. We've learnt about the Eldari before. Can't remember if they've mentioned the faction called the Inari before, but as a reminder, they are the Eldari who follow the newly awakened god of the dead, Inayad. This story is about the birth of that faction when Ivrain, the emissary of Inayad, came to prominence. So some of the main characters of the story are listed here. So on the left, Ivrain herself, the Vizarch, who is her bodyguard and companion, and the Incarn, the avatar of the Death God. Below that, there's some of the demon characters mentioned. We've got the Mask, who is a herald of Slaanesh, cursed to darts for eternity, and Skarbrand, the greater demon of Khorne, who was banished for trying to strike Khorne himself. These two formed a temporary alliance. And on the other page, we have Jainzar, the Phoenix Lord, Eldrad Ulthran, a Farseer, and Prince Iriel, a pirate captain, and Autarch of Crawford Ianden, all of whom feature in this story over the page, and also a bit about the Harlequins, another sub-faction of the Eldari who follow the Laughing God. And here's the story itself on the other side. So the fracture occurred when Yvraine, escaping from the Drukhari realm of Kamara, came to Bealtan, but the two demons mentioned previously took the opportunity, with the energy unleashed by the awakening of Inayad, the Death God, to strike at the heart of the craft world itself, fatally damaging it. So on her arrival, Yvraine tore out a sword from the heart of the craft world, one of the fabled crone swords, but this sealed the deal and completely destroyed the craft world. But she was rescued by Eldrad Ulthran and the Eldari of Ulthwé, where she then went to try and find support for her quest to find the other 4 crone swords, which led her to the planet of Belial 4 in the Eye of Terror, where fighting demons she was finally able to summon the Incarn, who then took the sword that was there. But facing being overrun with demons, they were then rescued from there by the forces of Yanden and taken to that craft world, where she was able to resurrect Prince Iriel, who had been struck down, and reveal that his spear that he carried was in fact another one of the crone swords. So having now cemented her place as the emissary of this new faction, she then went on to have more impact on the galaxy, which I'm sure we'll learn about in future issues. But that's definitely it for this issue content, so I now hand you over to Mike, where we're going to look at our new rules and get into our game.
First up for our new rules for this issue, we have some new stratagems for the Necrons, which they can use in addition to the 3 we learnt about in a previous issue. First up we have Resurrection Protocols, which costs 1 command point, and it can be used when a Necron's Infantry Noble or Infantry Cryptek model from your army is destroyed. Instead of rolling any abilities they might have that are triggered when they die, you instead roll 1d6, and on a 4+, that model is returned to the battlefield as close as possible to where it was destroyed and more than an inch away from any enemy models, with d3 wounds remaining. At the end of the phase, obviously roll a 1, 2 or 3, it's just removed as normal, and that stratagem cannot be used to set up the same model back up more than once per battle, so no multiple resurrections. And there's Techno-Oracular Targeting, which also costs a command point, which is used in your shooting phase. Before making a wound roll for an attack by a Necron's model, you don't make a wound roll, that it automatically wounds. And there's Self-Destruction, also costs a command point, which is used in the fight phase when a Canoptic Scarab Swarm unit is selected to fight. You choose one of these Scarab Swarms in that unit, and once that unit is finished piling in, you select one enemy unit within engagement range of that model, and then roll 1d6. On a 2 to 5, the enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds, or on a 6 it suffers 3 mortal wounds, and then that Scarab Swarm model is destroyed. And finally, Relentless Onslaught, also for a command point, which is used in your shooting phase when a core infantry unit, so that's warriors and immortals so far, is selected to shoot. Until the end of that phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack with a rapid fire weapon, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores an additional hit. And there's a little tutorial there for some of them. So we've got Resurrection Protocols there, just showing how the Necron Overlord is able to revive. Now down at the bottom it shows Techno-Oracular Targeting being used, making sure that one of the hit rolls from the Triarch Stalker automatically wounds, but still has to roll the remaining wounds. And here we have the data slate for the Triarch Stalker. So you can actually see it has multiple profiles. It's because its profile changes as it takes damage. As long as it has 7 wounds remaining, it has a 10-inch move, a 3+ weapon skill and ballistic skill, strength 7, toughness 6, 12 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 10, and a 3+ save. You can see as it takes more damage, its weapon skill and ballistic skill get worse, and its movement decreases. It's by default armed with a heat ray and the Stalker's 4 limbs, although you can change the heat ray for a particle shredder or a twin heavy Gauss cannon. The heat ray either has a sort of heavy flamer equivalent, or it has a focused shot, which is 2 shots, strength 8, every minus 4 d6 damage, but within half range it does d6 plus 2 damage. Then the particle shredder has a 24-inch range, is heavy 8, strength 6, every minus 1, 2 damage, or the twin heavy Gauss cannon has a 30-inch range, heavy 6, strength 7, every minus 3 d3 damage. And then the Stalker's 4 limbs are strength user, every minus 2, 3 damage, although it only has 3 attacks, so I wouldn't say it's super amazing in melee. Then for its other abilities, it has Living Metal and Command protocols like the other Necron units. It has Quantum Shielding, which is found on a lot of Necron vehicles, which gives it a 5+ invulnerable save, but in addition it means that any unmodified wound rolls of 1 to 3 are always a fail, regardless of any abilities that the weapon or the attacker may have. And then it also has a targeting relay, where if it makes a ranged attack, as long as it hits the enemy unit, then until the end of the phase, each time another friendly Necron's model makes a ranged attack against that enemy unit, they can reroll hit rolls of 1, and it has a chance to explode. So when it's destroyed, roll a d6, and on a 6 it explodes, and each enemy unit within 6 inches suffers d3 mortal wounds. It has the Dynastic Agent keyword. It does not have the Dynasty keyword, so it's not a Zarrakan model, so it wouldn't benefit from any abilities that Zarrakan nobles say would give it. And there you can also see the 3 weapons, you know which each one is. So there you can see Quantum Shielding, the supercharged Plasma Culverin from the Cataphrone Destroyers is strength 8, so normally it would wound a toughness 6 unit on 3s, but because thanks to the Quantum Shielding, a wound roll of 3 is always a fail. And there you can see the targeting relay, where the Triarch Stalker shoots at the aggressors first, and then the Warriors and the Immortals get to benefit from the reroll ones. And into our backstory for today's game. So the Triarch Stalker has been sent to oversee the Necron forces' performance on Alectia. Apparently it has been found lacking, and the Triarch Stalker is going to make sure that they complete their goals in good time. So it has arrived to oversee a force led by the Overlord that is attacking an important Mechanicus depot, which is also partially defended by the Sisters of Battle. Now finally we can get into today's game, Claws of the Triarch, which is actually correctly titled an Initiate Mission. You can see the battle map down at the bottom there. We're using the back of the maps from issue 4 and 38, and there are 5 objectives set up with 1 in the centre, and then 4 in a rectangle around it, 6-inch deployment zones along the short edges. So for the Necron forces, we have the Overlord, the Technomancer, the Plasmancer, 10 Necron Warriors, 5 Immortals, 2 Crypto Thralls and the Triarch Stalker, where the Imperium have the Canoness, the 7 Battle Sisters, the Repentia Superior, the 3 Sisters of Repentia, the 2 Archoflagellants, the Penitent Engine, the Dominus and the Engine Seer, the 10 Skitarii Rangers and the 3 Catapron Destroyers. The Defender begins deploying first, and we have 2 objectives. First one is Establish Control, which is a progressive objective where at the end of each player's turn, the player whose turn it is scores a victory point for each objective they control, and an additional one if they control more objectives than their opponent, but that cannot be scored in the first battle round. And you also get another victory point for destroying the enemy warlord thanks to Slay the Warlord, and whoever has the most victory points at the end of the game is victorious. So we'll get the board set up with terrain as we see fit, get our forces deployed and come back then. So with our board set up, we've got a mixture of terrain. On the left is more industrial with more pipes and the Hemotrope reactor. Got some ruined buildings, and then towards the right there's more containers and crates. And I chose to be the Defender, seemed to make sense narratively. I had to deploy first, and I'll show you my deployment. So at the top end of the board, the Sisters of Repentia with the Repentia Superior behind them. Then I have the Tech Priest Dominus behind a line of Skitarii Rangers next to the Cataphrons. Then I have the Battle Sisters with the Canoness behind them, and the Canoness will be my Warlord. And then down at the bottom of the board I have the Tech Priest Engine Seer, the Archoflagellants, and the Penitent Engine. And here we can see the Necron deployment.
So from the left of the picture, we've got the Triarch Stalker in the road, because that's the only place it's going to fit and I can't hide it behind anything. Then we've got the 2 Cryptex near the pipe, the Crypto Thralls in front of the Plasmancer, and then the Immortals. The Necron Overlord in the middle of all the Warriors, who are on the right-hand side.
Before we roll off for the first battle round, I rolled randomly again for my Sacred Rites, and I got Divine Guidance, which is the one where if you roll a 6 to wound with range attacks you get an extra -1 AP, and Light of the Emperor, which benefits combat attrition and leadership tests, so that will really affect the sisters if it comes up. We'll be rolling off for the first battle round. I won the roll off, and I will choose to go first because I want to see if I can damage that Triarch Stalker. So we'll head into Imperium turn 1. So at the start of the battle round, a bunch of things happen and I get to choose the order they go in. So we're going to reveal the Necron's command protocol first.
So we've got Protocol of the Sudden Storm. I'll pick the directive for +1 movement.
And then I also gain a Miracle Dice, which is a 4. So for my Canticle, I think I'm going to choose Shroud Psalm for the first turn. Hopefully if the Cataphrons get shot at, that will help them out. And I'm going to choose the Aggressor Imperative, the extra movement, so I can get those Skitarii into that large structure near them. And then the Canoness will use her Staff of Command on herself, and the Repentia Superior will use her ability on the Repentia. And then there's much for moving up and advancing, so down here by Objective 5, the Tech Priest Engine Seer just moved up to hold the objective. The Archoflagellants and the Penitent Engine advanced to take cover behind that structure. Battle Sisters and Canoness advanced to get up in the middle, hopefully to take Objective 1. The Cataphrons and the Tech Priest Dominus are moved up behind, and the 2 Plasmas are in range of the Triarch Stalker. Unfortunately, the Grav is just out of range. And then in the structure, the Skitarii advanced, so they can all get inside, and the Repentia and the Repentia Superior also advanced to take cover in there as well and to stay out of line of sight. So we'll be on to the shooting phase, where I think the only shooting is going to be the Catapron Destroyers, who are going to supercharge and shoot at the Triarch Stalker. 2d6 shots for 7, hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s. 5 hits, and these wound on 4s, even though it's strength 8, they all wound. It's got a 5+ invulnerable save though.
Made 2, so it takes 6 damage.
So there you can see the Triarch Stalker's gone down to 6, but that is it for my turn. Can't score objectives in the first turn, so we'll head into Necron's turn 1. So just showing here in the Necron's command phase, we completely forgot to mention command points in my first turn. So we both started with 3 and both will have gained 1 at the start of our command phases, so now we both have 4.
The Triarch Stalker goes back up to 7 wounds because it has living metal, and the Necron Overlord will put my will be done on the Immortals. And then for movement, all of my infantry have gone around the far side of the building, with the characters all behind them, the Technomancer remaining in place at the end of the movement phase to hopefully repair the Triarch Stalker. So he heals it D3 wounds, 3, so it's back up to 10. And we do have to acknowledge a mistake here. The Technomancer can't actually fix the Triarch Stalker because it does not have the Zarrakan keyword. He can only fix Dynasty, in this case Zarrakan vehicles. And as we said at the start, it is a dynastic agent, not a Dynasty vehicle. Fortunately, it wouldn't have made any difference here because the one wound it regained from Living Metal was enough to put it into its highest profile bracket. So it's still going to be hitting on 3s. And as you see, it doesn't actually affect the rest of the game either, just because of the way it works out. And also at the end of the movement phase, the Plasmancer's Harbinger of Destruction ability goes off, and the closest unit is the Battle Sisters. So 3 dice doing mortal wounds on 4s. We've got one.
We'll lose this one.
That brings us to the shooting phase. We'll start with the Triarch Stalker. It's going to fire its twin heavy Gauss cannons, which I did give it for this mission, back at the Cataphront Destroyers. 6 shots hitting on 3s, getting 4, and wounding on 3s as well because it's strength 7. So only 2. I think I'll spend a command point and re-roll one of those. It'd be good to get some damage on these early, so re-roll one of these fails into 3.
So it's AP -3, but they have the benefit of light cover, so 3 5+ armor saves. Made 2. You know what, I'll spend a command point to re-roll. Don't think I'm going to want to use it the rest of the phase. No. So one of them goes through.
And does D3 damage. For 1.
So Cataphront goes down to 2 wounds.
We'll do the Immortals next. They're going to shoot the Destroyers as well. It'd be good to actually kill one off, because otherwise they can just be repaired. Not sure if we caught that on camera because we had a battery failure, but I got 5 hits, which wound on 4s. 3.
So this is 3 4+ saves, which I made 2 again. So 1 damage. Gravman is down to 1.
And finally we've got my Warriors. They're all in range of the Battle Sisters, so I'm going to shoot at them. And I'll spend another command point for Relentless Onslaught, which is when I shoot with a core infantry unit, then with a rapid fire weapon on a 6 to hit, I get an extra hit. So we're hitting on 3s. 6s score an extra hit. Well, hey, we got an extra hit. So that will be, 9 hits total. And wounding on 3s. 5.
5 4+ saves. Made 3 for the Battle Sisters, so the 2 remaining ones with bolt guns will die.
But I don't have any more shooting, nothing else is in range.
Yeah, so that's the end of the Necron's turn. The Battle Sisters don't have to make a leadership test because they're leadership 9 thanks to the Canoness being nearby. Now we're on to Imperium turn 2.
At the start of the battle round, next protocol will be Vengeful Stars. We'll do it so that a 6 to wound is an extra -1 AP, because not much is going to be within half range.
Okay, and then I gain a Miracle Dice, which is another 4. For my Canticle, I'm going to choose Benediction of the Omnissiah, which allows a unit to reroll 1 hit roll, wound roll, and damage roll when chosen to shoot. And my Doctrine Imperative is going to be the Protector Imperative, which is +1 ballistic skill, but -1 weapon skill. So you can see most of my movement here. The 2 Archoflagellants hiding in the structure down the bottom. The Tech Priest Engineer is just going to hang out near that box for the rest of the game and hold Objective number 5. In the middle, the Canoness and the Battle Sisters have moved up to hold Objective 1, with the Cataphrons behind and the Dominus following them up. The Repentia and the Repentia Superior are in that structure, just huddled up against the wall. They're not going to go charging out just yet. The Scutari have moved up onto the roof of the building. And the Penitent Engine is advanced. I got a 5, which is good enough for me, so it's going to charge off. It can advance and charge, so potentially I might be able to charge into the Triarch Stalker, maybe even the Technomancer if I'm very lucky. And at the end of the movement phase, the Tech Priest Dominus can fix the Cataphront Destroyers. He'll heal D3. So he heals D3 wounds for 3, so it's back up to 4. Going to start shooting with the Cataphront Destroyers. They're going to put everything into the Triarch Stalker again, supercharging the plasmas. One exception is the heavy phosphor blaster from the guy with the grav, who's going to shoot at the Immortals. Do the heavy grab first. 5 shots hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s. Reroll 1s. Getting 4 hits. These are on 5s because it is only strength 5. 2 wounds. 5+ a vulnerable save.
Made 1 failed one.
So 2 damage goes through, because it has a 3+ save base. And then 2d6 shots from heavy plasmas for 4. These hit on 4s, rerolling 1s. Getting 1 hit. I've got a reroll from Benediction, which it rerolls into a hit. Wounding on 4s, and I can reroll one of those, getting 2 wounds.
Another 2 5+. Nope, that's another 2 damage, so 6 total.
And then the heavy phosphor blaster, 1 shot hitting on a 4, hits, wounds on a 5. Didn't wound on a 3, so there you go. So Triarch Stalker's down to 4 wounds.
And following on from before, it would actually be down to 1 wound, not 4.
We'll do the Scutari next. The Sniper will shoot at the Plasmancer because he is quite annoying, and I want to get rid of his mortal wounds. Everyone else is going to shoot at the Necron Warriors. We've got 12 shots from Galvanic Rifles, hitting on 3s because they moved, but they get +1 to hit from Protector Doctrine, and rerolling 1s because of the Tech Priest Dominus, so all those 2s go away. And that's going to be 9 hits. These wound on 4s. getting 5 wounds.
I have 5+ saves. Failed all of them.
Single shot from the arc rifle, hitting on a 2, rerolling 1s. Reroll, hit. Wounds on a 3, didn't wound. And 2 shots from the plasma, which I'm not supercharging. Hit 1, reroll, into 2 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound and another dead warrior, because they can 3.
So 6 reanimations on 5s rerolling 1s. No successes, but 2 1s. 1 comes back, so 5 destroyed. So losing 5.
And then the sniper hits, wounds on a 3, and 6s do a mortal wound in addition. He did not wound. Yeah, I'll spend a command point in this phase to re-roll that. No. Do the battle sisters next. They're going to shoot at the warriors as well. So we'll have 2 bolt guns and the storm bolter. And the flamer is in range of the immortals, so it'll shoot at them. I'll do the 2 bolt guns and the storm bolter at the same time because the extra damage from the storm bolter doesn't matter. So 4 shots hitting on 3s, you're on 1s because of the canoness. 2 hits. These wound on 4s and 6s are an extra AP. No. And then I've got D6 shots from the flamer, automatic hits. 4 automatic hits on the immortals. Strength 5, so it's wounding on 4s. 2 wounds.
There's one who's got his toe into cover in the building, so I'll just take them on him one at a time. 2+ save. Oh, failed. And then another one who succeeds. Does the dead one come back? No.
And the only shooting I have left is the Tech Priest Dominus, who can see the immortals, so he'll put his Volkite Blaster into them. So he has 3 shots hitting on 3s, but he does get to reroll 1 because of Benediction of the Omnissiah. So reroll that 1 into a miss. And then these wound on 3s because it's strength 6, and 6s do 2 mortal wounds in addition. And we can reroll 1 as well. So that's 2 wounds.
With no AP, so 3+. Made both.
And that's it for shooting. So in the charge phase, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to have the Penitent Engine, but just charge the Triarch Stalker, which is slightly shorter than charging both the Technomancer and the Triarch Stalker.
I'm going to spend a command point to Overwatch because it might not survive this combat, so even 1 hit could make a difference against that thing. So 6 shots, hitting on 6s because we're firing Overwatch. We've got a hit. Wounds on a 3 because it's strength 7. That's a wound with AP -3.
Yeah, no save.
D3 damage, 1.
Ignoring a 5. Didn't ignore it, so the Penitent Engine is down to 5 wounds. Then its charge roll is a 10, which is enough to get it in. Yeah, just going to charge the Penitent Engine in like that, so if I kill the Triarch Stalker I can take that objective. So Penitent Engine has 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, rerolling misses because it charged. Good job we can reroll misses, because there's 3 to reroll, getting 4 hits. I think it's strength 6 normally, so it'd be up to 8, but it's still wounding on 4s because quantum shielding applies even in melee. Getting 3 wounds, 3 5+ invulnerable saves.
That is enough to kill it because that's 4 damage total. So yeah, I think we have to spend the last command point here to try and re-roll that into a 5+. No, so it is destroyed. Does it explode on a 6? No. So that's the end of that.
I'm not going to consolidate the Penitent Engine. It's fine where it is. The Necron Warriors don't have to make a leadership test because they're technically leadership 11 because they're near the Necron Overlord.
Who is my warlord?
So that will be it for my turn, and I hold 4 objectives, and that is more than a Necron, so I gain 5 victory points, and we'll be into Necron's turn 2.
So in my command phase I gain a command point. We're going to use the Technomancer to bring back a single immortal, and then we'll use the Resurrection Orb on the warriors from the Overlord. 5 are missing, coming back on 5s, re-rolling 1s. We've got 1 back and a 1 to re-roll. Well, only 1. So we're just going to have to keep moving up because I have to take objectives in order to compete in this game. So the infantry have all moved up. The 1 immortal at the front there is within range of the objective, so if I can clear everything else off it, I will take it. The Technomancer is in the building, you can't see him from there, but I'm going to put my order on the immortals as well. And the Crypto Thralls are going to have to go and deal with the Penitent Engine, hopefully with a bit of help from the Plasmancer's ability. So yeah, at the end of the movement phase, the Penitent Engine is slightly closer for Harbinger of Destruction, but that's kind of what I want to hit anyway. So mortal wounds on 4s. 2 mortal wounds.
Ignoring on 5s. Don't ignore any.
So onto the shooting, we're going to start with the Crypto Thralls, who are going to fire their pistol eye things at the Penitent Engine. 2 shots each, hitting on 3s, because they're within 6 of the Technomancer. We've got 3. Wounding on 4s, because it's strength 5. 6s have an extra -1 AP, so we've got 2 wounds. 1 is AP -3, 1's AP -2.
So I've got a 6+ against that AP -2. Nope. Ignoring damage on 5s. Didn't ignore any. It goes down. It just kills the Penitent Engine. It doesn't explode.
Next we'll shoot the warriors at the Battle Sisters. 12 shots, hitting on 3s. Got 9. And wounding on 3s as well. 6s have an extra AP. Ooh, that's not bad. I've got 6 wounds, 2 of which are AP minus 2.
So I think I'll use my 2/4 miracle dice to guarantee some of these. So there's 2 5+ armour, made 1, and then 2 6+. Both. And leave the flamer just in case somebody tries to charge her.
Next we're going to shoot with the Plasmancer at the Canoness because she doesn't have Lookout Sir anymore. D3 shots, 3, which hit on 3s. Just the 1, which wounds on a 2 because it's strength 7. That's a wound. AP minus 3.
4+ invulnerable, made it.
Well, we're going to shoot the Immortals at the Canoness as well. 10 shots hitting on 2s because it might be all be done. 2 misses. Wounding on 3s. 5 wounds.
5 4+ invulnerable saves. Which I made 3, so she takes 2 damage, down to 3 wounds.
I'll shoot the Technomancer at her as well. 3 shots hitting on 3s. 2 hits, wounding on 3s as well. 1 wound, AP minus 2.
Another 4+ invulnerable, which I failed, so she's down to 2 wounds.
And that's all my shooting. I'm going to charge with the Immortals at that lone battle sister because I need to take the objective.
Yeah, and she's going to overwatch with her flamer. Down to 2 command points, D6 automatic hits for 5. These wound on 4s, getting 4 wounds.
The Immortals are only on cover though, so these are 2+ saves, which I failed 1 of, and try and reanimate on a 5. Success. In the charge phase, I'm not allowed to reanimate closer to the charge target, so just leave him in place. And our charge roll is a 6, that'll do. We'll charge like that, not getting within 3 inches of the Canoness, and the Overlord will declare a charge on the Canoness only. He'll need a 10, but there's not much to lose. 9. So that's all the charges, so we'll pick the Immortals to fight, and I will pile in now, but getting everybody in range to hit that Battle Sister. 10 attacks hitting on 2s, because my will be done still effective. It's 7 hits, and winning on 3s. 4 wounds.
4 3+ armour saves. Yeah, I think I'll let her die because I think if I re-roll that and succeed, the Immortals will just surround her and then I won't be able to shoot at them.
And I will consolidate a little bit closer to the Canoness, just so some of them might get a bit of cover from some angles. And at the end of the turn, I hold 3 objectives, which is now more than the Imperium, so I get 4 victory points.
And there you can see the state of the board at the end of Battle Round 2, and we'll be on to Battle Round 3. At the start of the Battle Round I gain a Miracle Dice, getting a 5.
Protocol will be Protocol of the Eternal Guardian. I'll pick Directive 2, which effectively allows everything to either hold steady or fire Overwatch with increased chance of success if charged, even if they're not in cover.
And then we'll head into Imperium Turn 3. My canticle will be the Litany of the Electromancer, so it's -1 to hit the Destroyers and Tech Priests in melee, and my Doctrina will be the Bulwark Imperative, the extra save, since the Skitarii don't need to move anywhere. So I gain a command point, and then the Repentia Superior will use her ability on the Repentia, Canoness will use her command staff on herself. So you can see the results of my movements. Right down the bottom, the Tech Priest Agency is just going to poke his head out from behind the box, and so he can fire his pistol at something if he needs to. Canophrons are going to move up towards the middle, and the Canoness has moved so that if someone wants to charge her, then they have to go through the Canophrons as well. Tech Priest Dominus is going to stay where he is, he doesn't need to move, neither do the Skitarii. The Repentia Superior is going to stay there to hold the building, but she has used her ability to push the Repentia out, and they're going to hide behind that box, see if we can charge that Plasmancer later in the turn. And down here, the Archoflagellants have come out of the building, and they're going to try and go for the Technomancer, who is just under here. But that'll be it for movement onto the shooting phase, where I will start with the Cataphron Destroyers, who are going to put everything into the Immortals. So I'm not going to supercharge the Plasma, so I'll do the Plasma first, getting 7 shots. Hitting on 4s, you're on 1s. 2 1s to re-roll, getting 5 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting 4.
6+ saves. Well, I made 2, so 2 die so far.
5 shots from Grav. Hitting on 4s, you're on 1, getting 3. And wounding on 4s, getting 1.
Also a 6. Nope, 3 dead.
2d6 plus 4 flamer hits, 12. 12 hits wounding on 5s, getting 5 wounds.
3+ against this. There again, there's 2 fails, they're all dead.
And that's enough to take out the Immortals. Do the Skitarii Rangers next. They're all going to shoot at the Warriors, except for the Sniper, who will have another go at the Plasmancer. 12 shots from Galvanic Rifles, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s. Reroll that 1. They will hit. And reroll 4s. 8 wounds.
8 5+ saves. Made 3, so 5 dead. There are 6 in the unit.
Do the Plasma, 3s, rerolling 1s. 2 hits. 3s. Hit. That's enough to kill 2 Warriors, but that will wipe out the unit. but then the sniper's shooting at the plasma answer. So, one shot on a 3 rolling ones. He hits. Wounding on a 3. 6s do a mortal wound in addition. He wounded.
6 to save, only 4+ base. Failed.
D3 damage. 3.
Almost down to 1.
Do the Tech Priest Dominus next. Going to put the Volkite Blaster into the Crypto Thralls. Phosphorus Apprentice not in range, so he's got 3 shots with the Volkite Blaster, hitting on 2s. Obviously he only gets 2 hits. Then wounding on 3s. 6s do 2 mortal wounds in addition. 1 wound.
Crypto Thralls of a 3+, which I made.
So now we're on to the charge phase. They'll do the Arcoflagellants first, and they're going to charge the Technomancer, who's about here. And I suppose it is worth saying that you can only overwatch a unit charging if you can actually see it.
Yep.
6 is going to be enough to get them in. Then the Repaintier are going to try and charge the Plasmancer. They get to roll 3 dice and I get to discard the lowest, so I'm going to use a Miracle Dice as one of those dice, and then all the others. I'll take that 6, so I'll have an 11. So let's charge from the Arcoflagellants. One of them is going to stay outside the building, because if I did move him in, then the Overlord would be able to pile into them, but where they are now, the Overlord can't heroically intervene. And then up at the top, the Repaintier can all get in around the Plasmancer, who does have an ability that comes into effect at this point, I think.
And the Overlord is within range to heroically intervene, but can't physically get round the Technomancer, but I will heroically intervene to getting closer to the Arcoflagellant, just to get a little bit closer to Objective 1, I suppose. Yes, since we're moving on to the fight phase, at the start of it, the Plasmancer's ability will do a mortal wound to the Repaintier on a 4+. No. And the Arcoflagellants. Yes.
Arcoflagellant ignores it on a 5+. No. So Arcoflagellant will take a wound. I'm going to pick the Repaintier to fight first. I'm not going to pile in the Repaintier, so they've got 6 attacks hitting on 4s, but re-rolling everything because of Zealot. There's some re-rolling to do. Getting 5 hits overall. Then these hit wound on 3s. So yeah, that's 4 wounds.
So I will spend a command point for Resurrection Protocols, but I do remove him for now, and I'll just mark where he was with that dice, and then at the end of the phase he might come back.
And that is important, because that does mean you spend the command point now as well. Also gain a Miracle Dice, because a Basiliscus unit destroyed an enemy unit. They are 1. So the Arcoflagellants, that guy outside, is within half an inch of the other one. So the black dice are the guy outside, who is only strength 4, whereas the white dice are the one inside, who is strength 5. And these all hit on 4s, re-rolling everything because of Zealot. Some re-rolling to do. So that's 4 hits from the stronger one, and 2 hits from the weedier one. So these black dice wound on 4s, and then the white dice wound on 3s. It is only 3 wounds at AP -1.
So all of them are 5+ saves, which I have failed all of them, so he's down to 1 wound. And then he'll hit back, because that's the only thing I have left to do. 1 attack on a 3, which hits. 8 wounds on a 4. No.
But then at the end of the phase, the Plasmancer might return to life.
So on a 4+, no.
At the end of the turn, I hold objectives 2, 3 and 5. That's more than the Necrons, so I gain 4 victory points to go up to 9.
But at this point I'll concede, because I have 2 characters left who can't possibly hold all the objectives, enough objectives at least, by themselves. The Overlord sure can do a bit of damage, but he'll get shot to bits or something eventually. The Imperium are obviously thoroughly in control of the battlefield, so we'll definitely leave it there.
So that'll be an Imperial victory. I'll recap that game for you now. So that was the game for issue 53 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine. How did you think that went?
Well, not too well, obviously. Not, I think, due to any bad rolling, or possibly even not necessarily any mistakes I made, but just because I think you had the run of the board from the beginning. Going first helped, and even though you didn't do very much damage in your first turn, just having the initiative there and being able to control the board with, I guess, more units, because obviously I had to come out to the middle of the board to take the middle objective to really have a chance of winning, because obviously you need to control more objectives than the opponent to rack up the victory points. But unfortunately you had a lot of good shooting and a lot of good counter-attack charging options.
And I was basically just able to delete units with the Cataphrons. I probably could have killed at least one of them, which would have helped. Although the Grab Man didn't do that much damage, I suppose, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I did do some damage to your army. It was mostly superficial, and the Battle Sisters aren't really that important in the scheme of things, and none of your firepower units were damaged at the end of the game.
Yeah, I think once I got rid of the Immortals and the Warriors, that was probably going to be it, because you just wouldn't have had any units left to hold objectives. Or you could have held an objective, but then unit has to stay behind and not do anything for the rest of the game, basically.
Yeah, and I suppose while I could have sent the Overlord out on a charge mission, he probably would have been shot down in the end. And the Cryptex, while they are very useful, both of them in their own way, they can't hold objectives really by themselves effectively unless they're protected by Lookouts and so forth, which they weren't.
Yeah, and I basically had two characters who I could afford to leave behind. Well, the Technopriest Engines here didn't do anything all game, except hold Objective 5, and the Repentia Superior as well.
I also didn't really have any fast units in that game apart from the Technomancer, so there was no way for me to advance on the objective. I don't think it would have mattered that much, but it would have helped if I'd gone first with this army, because being able to move up earlier and get some shooting done would have meant I got the objective on turn 2 rather than you, so I would have had the victory point advantage.
Yeah, and I think if that was the case, I may have tried to turn my shooting on any units that are holding your backline objectives instead, because that still denies you a victory point in the grand scheme of things, even if I don't gain one as well. And if you're using a small unit like the 2 Crypto Thralls, and maybe the terrain benefited me a bit because there was more cover around the objectives, but...
And you won the roll-off to decide which end you had, so you had the chance to pick. I never even attacked the Scutari Rangers, so the fact that they were in a building didn't make any difference, really. There were a couple of occasions where I wished I had used Relentless Onslaught, because I rolled 6s to hit and I wasn't using the stratagem, but it's only an extra hit per 6, so it's not a huge impact on the game. That one's best when you have a whole unit of 10 Immortals or 20 Warriors when you've got a really large number of shots coming in, so you can get the benefit. And also, obviously, things like My Will Be Done and the Triarch Stalker's ability to maximise your hits. Yeah, the Scarab blowing up one, obviously, we couldn't see. That one is quite handy because it gives Scarabs an extra threat, because normally they don't do that much damage in melee, but doing potentially 3 mortal wounds to something for the loss of a Scarab base, pretty good, especially if it's a powerful unit.
Yeah, or even getting rid of a load of Repentia in one go.
Yeah.
Also, especially if you have a Spider, so you can bring back Scarab bases as well.
Resurrection Protocols one, as we saw, it doesn't always work. It can be pretty useful if you do manage to make that roll and bring a character back. It's particularly good if someone like the Overlord or one of the Cryptex who have the special abilities, like the bringing back warriors and things, that can make a difference. And then Techno-Oracular Targeting can be useful occasionally, but it's something I would save for single high damage shots, basically. Something like, the Triarch Stalker's Heat Ray, Focused Ray profile, being able to auto-wound with that, especially against something where you're not wounding on a 2, rather than 2/3 or 50% chance.
Yeah, I mean, if you're firing the Heat Ray at a vehicle, something with toughness 8 or above,
I would probably not use it very often on getting an Immortal to get a wound with a gun or something when you've already got so many shots, because that's relatively low impact for a whole command point. And there are things in the Necron army that we don't get with this collection that have much bigger, more powerful guns that fire a single shot, for example, so things like that would be more useful for that, I think. I suppose it is also useful, actually, if you are shooting a relatively low strength but decent damage shot against something that's high toughness, so you can auto wound rather than wounding on 5, say. But
I suppose, talking about the Triarch Stalker model, it does feel more like a support vehicle than like a heavy assault vehicle, I suppose. It's not terribly tough. I was surprised it was only toughness 6.
No, it is only toughness 6, but it makes up for that with quantum shielding. Unless you're shooting it with a strength 6 gun, which is wounding it on 4s, you're only ever wounding it on 4s. So strength 6 is actually kind of the optimum. It doesn't have the heaviest armament in the Necron book. Part of its value is in the thing that lets you get reroll 1s when against something that it's hit. It has 3 weapon options. For this game, I went with the one that I think is the best. I did magnetise them so I can use all the weapons. I think against Scutari and Battle Sisters, the Particle Shredder is mathematically slightly better than the Gauss Cannons against 1 wound toughness 3 things, but against most targets, the Gauss is better. The Heat Ray only starts to become better against things where you can actually make use of the high damage roll potential, like against a single vehicle, for example. Obviously, against single models, it's mostly wasted because only 2 shots. And the Heavy Flamer equivalent is good against Overwatch, but I wouldn't count on that. And certainly against Space Marines, the D3 damage Gauss Cannons are better. So you'll probably see me use that gun most of the time. As I said, I can swap them out if I need to, but especially once we get soon into being able to choose our own armies where I don't know what I'm going to be facing.
Not being a Zarrakan unit means it benefits from any of their bonuses as well.
No, indeed. We should say as well, we did make a mistake. You can't repair it with a Technomancer because it isn't a Dynasty unit. Which seems a bit weird in a way. Maybe it's because the Triarch Praetorian would not let him do it. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's pretty good value for money as well, getting it for about half price or so.
Yeah, because over 2 issues you're only going to be paying £18. Personally, I don't actually like the model all that much. It looks to me like someone's put a big chair on top of a beetle or something, which just doesn't work for me. I actually think it'd be better if you just had the legs and then made it a Canoptech unit with a head. I think that would be much more creepy and scary. I suppose it makes sense from the point point of view of an observation post for the Triarch Praetorian unit. It just comes from a period of the Necron range where I'm just not such a fan of them. It's the same kind of vintage as the Tomb Blades, which they're not my favourite.
Probably also why it doesn't come with a base as well. Although if it did have a base, it would be huge.
Yeah, it's a bit unusual not having a base. Not many models do these days, and especially Walkers, because it's kind of tricky measuring to its hull and stuff exactly what counts as that.
Weird things like if you have someone with a small base like a Skitarii Ranger can technically stand in between its two front claws and not be engaged because he's technically not an inch away.
And also painting it as well. It's obviously the largest model we've had. It's not too difficult really because most of it's just metal coloured, so it's not much more difficult to do. They tell you to undercoat it using your dry brush, but then paint all the brass sections with the starter brush, which will take a very long time, and then the black sections as well, so would benefit from a larger brush, but that's all they give you with the collection, unfortunately.
Well, otherwise, I don't think we have too much more to say about this game, or the Triarch Stalker, or this issue as a whole. So, as always, if you like this content, do leave a like and subscribe. And leave any comments. What do you think of the Triarch Stalker, or if you played this game? How did you get on? We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.